Let's talk tennis, folks. Let's talk about the defeat of the defending women's champion, Marketa Vondrousova. The first time, David, that a defending women's champion has lost since 1994, 30 years. In fact, a story that we told on a recent edition of Tennis Relived, the most recent edition of Tennis Relived, Steffi Graf's defeat to Laurie McNeil. This wasn't like that, though, was it?
No.
6-4, 6-2, an hour and 7 minutes to a 21-year-old Spanish player, Jessica Buthas Monero. Is that right?
Beautiful.
Okay, great. It wasn't like Steffi Graf and Laurie McNeil, David. Tell us about it.
No, well, I mean, Steffi Graf, having covered that story, that match a few weeks ago for Tennis Relived, and that was the last time that a defending women's champion had lost in the first round. Steffi Graf didn't actually play badly that day. Laurie McNeil was awesome, and she was a really high quality player with pedigree at that level. She'd been 7 years earlier, had a big run at the US Open, which we talked about at that time, and she was a proper grass court specialist. A nightmare to play on day one on lush grass, coming in at you, and she won, I think, 7-6, 7-5, something like that. The scoreline was. This was a player who has never played on a stage like this, and who was wonderful. Got to say that at the start of this. She was fantastic. Nerveless it felt like as she came out. She took it to her. She played loads of drop shots. She played big from the baseline as well. She thoroughly deserved that win. But Marketa Vondrousova did not turn up today at all. And she looked as though the weight of that status of being the defending champion was just way too much for her. I don't think she was feeling physically great either. I didn't go to the press conference, but we know she had that horrible fall the other week. But she looked not really, I don't want to say relieved, but it was just a horrible experience for her. She couldn't get it going, and I felt from about 5-3 first set, there'll have to be a massive change here for this not to be an upset. I said at the end of the first set, I was commentating on that, I said she's in big trouble, and it never looked like turning.
That's exactly it. There was never a moment where you felt like she was about to make it competitive, or it was about to turn into a match or a tussle of any kind. Buthas Monero, after the match in her on-court interview, she said something that she had no idea how poignant this was. She said, "I have no pressure. I just enjoyed the moment, told myself to enjoy the tournament. I just tried to be free playing, and I did it."
Yeah.
And that's everything that Marketa Vondrousova was last year and now can't be anymore. You know, you're
not going to say this again.
I'm going to quote myself from last night,
Excellent.
because Hannah quoted it back to me this morning. She said, "I can't stop thinking about you saying last night, once you've done the thing, you'll never be free again," which is me revising Marketa Vondrousova's quote, which is, "Once you're world number 6, you can't be free." And that was the story of today, it felt like to me. Yes, there were a few other things going on around the edges. I don't think Marketa Vondrousova was absolutely 100% physically, but I also don't think that's why she lost today.
Absolutely. I think, she mentioned the leg and said she was a little bit scared because of that, but I think there was something much, much larger at play, which was the nerves of being the defending champion and the pressure she felt as the defending champion. And it actually took me back to something she said in her post-match press conference after winning the title last year, which was that she hoped that being a Grand Slam champion wouldn't change her too much. I remember her saying that. And actually, I think of all the recent Grand Slam champions up until this point, it felt like Marketa Vondrousova was kind of most unchanged by it. She's still pretty inexplicable. She's still going to get a run to a Grand Slam quarterfinal when you don't expect it, but she's also going to suffer some losses. It felt like she was still the same player. And then we get to Wimbledon, and suddenly the pressure and the nerves of being the defending champion kind of overtook her, and she really struggled on serve throughout. She's got a 1-5 record on grass in her career if you take out last year's run to the title here. Like, her game that fortnight at Wimbledon was really effective on the grass. Of course it was. But if she's not quite, or today she was nowhere near her best, her ball just kind of sits there a little bit. It wasn't putting Buthas Monero under too much pressure, and she was able to play free in a way that Vondrousova wasn't. And yeah, it was a tough watch for sure, but one that I think just shows the impact that kind of the tournament can have on a player. It's something to behold.
It was a tough scene in her press conference afterwards. I have to say, I think she did magnificently, Marketa Vondrousova, given how clearly devastated she was. She'd been crying, she was still crying, she had the cap pulled over her head, but she actually spoke brilliantly. She said she felt scared today, not at all free. She said basically just weighed down by nerves and pressure, which was totally exacerbated by how good her opponent was and the type of match she played, just not giving Vondrousova anything for free. No free points, Vondrousova kept on saying, like nothing to build a foundation on from.
And that got me thinking back to last year's final, when Vondrousova was the freer player out of her and Jabeur, and makes me think maybe Vondrousova was kind of really nervous that day as well, and yet Jabeur kept giving her 3 points, so maybe that helped free her up. But also, I really subscribe to the idea that it's very hard to do something you've never done before. That is something that kind of gets said a lot in this sport, and I totally believe it to be true. And of course that's what Vondrousova did at Wimbledon here last year by winning the title. It was an incredible feat. But I also think back to something Naomi Osaka said once, where you might think it's easier to win your second Grand Slam than your first, but you know how hard it is. You know what it takes, and it can maybe be quite daunting to have all that information and to have felt that pressure before and think, I'm not sure. Like when you're free and fearless, it's easier maybe for some people, and when you know how hard it is, it can be harder for some people. People experience it differently, I think, and really felt for Marketa Vondrousova today. Like it's such an exposing position. Like I love Wimbledon's tradition of men's champion comes out Monday, women's champion comes out Tuesday. They both get to sort of open centre court in that way, but there's nowhere to hide out there. Like, and you put it to her in the press conference pre-tournament, David. Like, when you're going to play exactly. There's all this build up to it. There's no extenuating circumstances to take your mind off something. It's just one thing to focus on. And yeah, it was tough for Vondrousova today, and kind of a really big moment actually.